I'd like to introduce our next ambassador for international religious freedom.
Thank you guys. Thanks. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you very much. You're very kind. Great seeing all of you. What a great, fun group. And I was, thinking coming in here, I didn't know if I wanted to speak about anything, but just kind of reminisce about everything and thank everybody, because you guys have just been so good to me for so many years. My heart's full of thanks for you and all the things. I remember, so I'm coming in here, I'm thinking, well, what do I remember? And I remember specifically 1996. And the crowd here is looking kind of more older like me, so they remember it too. I'm running for the Senate. Governor Graves announced Sheila Fromm for that Senate seat. I'm coming down here. It's a short campaign. I think it's May. The election's going to be in August, and I announced that I'm running for the United States Senate. I show up in Wichita, and I don't know who's going to be here. And there was a bunch of people, and David Gittrich had helped organize a whole ton of people to organize and push, and Wichita came out and pushed me forward and got me into that Senate seat and really launched me on forward. And I just really remember as a young man with no gray hair at that time, just how important and how wonderful this community was then and has continued to be all along. And you guys you've been fantastic. I really just can't thank you enough. I want to thank all of the too, and I've met with a number of pastors ahead of time that have prayed for me and my family for years. Because I know there are people in this room that have done that, and Donna Lippold helped organize a group ahead of time of the pastors. You have sustained us with your prayers. Paul would write about that, but it is true. And I can tell you specifically in that 96 race, the last 2 weeks, which were terrible, and we had all this outside money coming in and everything happening, I felt like I was walking on water, just floating on air. I felt no pressure. But it was your prayers that were sustaining us, and my family and I. And I'm just deeply appreciative. And then the most recent, that 2014 race, that was just so brutal. You guys kept pulling for us, and you never let up, never gave in. I mean, when the poll numbers are all bad, and my own poll numbers are bad internally, but you guys just kept pushing. You weren't going to quit. You were going to punch that ball in. We're going to get it over the line. And I remember the last day, the TV, they were showing Paul Davis's campaign office, and everybody was celebrating, and it was great. And they were, what office are you going to get, and what office are you going to get? And they come over to my office, and everybody's still digging in on the phone, and they're pushing, they're calling people. My mother got 10 calls the last day. And I'm going, Mom, why'd you answer the phone? And well, they kept calling me, and I said, I'm going to vote, yeah. But that's what our guys were they were digging to the last day, and we end up winning by just under 4 percentage points on that race. And it wasn't settled till quite a ways into the evening. It was kind of a long night for a while. But you never gave up on me. You never gave up on me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I want to thank you for doing that. And then I want to recognize some people. Kelly Arnold's been party chair a number of years while I was governor. Has done a fantastic job. Is a great candidate for statewide office. Kelly, thank you for all you've done in this. And done a beautiful job. And then a number of people in the room, I don't want to start going too far because I'll never get done. But Kenya Cox is head of the African American Affairs Council for me. And I mention that because she's a great lady. But also, we're going to have a mural up in the state capitol that she's fundraising for of the Brown v. Board of Education. This is the state that lawsuit was decided upon that ended separate but equal. Well, Kenya's raising the funds for it. It's got it almost done. They've wanted to do this for 10 years. Nobody's put the money together. She's leaned in and getting it done, and it's going to happen. And that's going to be in the state capitol. And the state capitol is a place where you try to collect the big events that happen in a state. So we've got, pictures in it of John Brown and Coronado, and now we'll have a mural of Brown v. Board of Education. A lot of it due to Kenya's good work. Kenya, stand up and take a bow for that. Thank you. And then I can't comment on Wichita without recognizing your amazing work on the pro-life movement in this nation and world. This is a global impact, that what you've done here from the Summer of Mercy that really changed the debate in this state and nation. And the wholehearted, we are a pro-life state. We are not going back. You have done it. You have dug in. You have pushed and pushed and pushed. And it has happened. And the debate's shifted now. The country has shifted pro-life. You are winning the hearts and minds. You've changed the nation by changing thoughts in people, and you've now established that this is a child. This is a child, and we're going to fight and protect it. And you guys have done it. And recently, David Gittridge passed away, and I was at his funeral, and I obviously I can't comment about pro-life without mentioning David Gittridge, just an amazing soul that changed things. So during my governorship, I've signed 19 pro-life bills, and there are 6,000 fewer abortions that have happened in this state than during the same 7-year time period before. 6,000. Again, you guys, our Second Amendment rights have been protected. We're one of the most pro-Second Amendment states. That's been here as well, and you guys have done it. I'm just deeply thankful. I'm going to give a quick report, and then I want to just make some comments from the heart, and then if there are any comments or questions afterwards. People, you ask, okay, well, what have you gotten done? You may recall I ran on 5 measurables. When I said I want to be elected governor, and I've got 5 things I want you to measure me by. Increasing private sector employment, increasing personal income, decreasing childhood poverty, increasing career readiness, and increasing 4th grade reading scores. Those were the 5 measurables I put out there, and I did that because most of the time when you're running for public office, you run on themes. But most organizations run on numbers and measurables so that people can say, well, did you get anything done? And so I ran on these 5 measurables, and I said, these are the things I want you to measure me by in my administration. So how have we done? Increasing private sector employment. We've had a gain of about 73,000 private sector jobs. We've got unemployment rates the lowest since 2000. We've gotten that. We've hit that one. We've had an increase of about 10,000 new private sector. This isn't public. We said private sector jobs. Per year, we've had about a 10,000 increase per year, and we have hit a record for private sector employment. That's dipped back down, but we've hit a record of it. Number 2, increasing personal income. It's too many numbers, but I want to throw them out there so you've got them. So in 2011, average income in the state of Kansas, according to U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, about $40,800. That's 2011. 2016, $48,500. $48,500. Yeah, you're up $8,000 on average. Decrease in childhood poverty is about 15% in 2011 to 13, 10% now. Childhood poverty, which to me is a big measurement. I want to get that childhood poverty down. 4th grade reading, it's about flat. Here we've gotten an incomplete, and I've got to say that to you. We've got programs in place, but we've got to get that score up and better. So it's about flat. Career college readiness for 18-year-olds was the 5th item. Here we've had a major success on expansion of technical education in the state. We've tripled the number of people in technical education, and we virtually tripled the number of certifications for people coming in and getting technical certifications, so they're certified as a diesel mechanic in IT or in other fields, and they can get a job that's well above the minimum wage. They've got a skill, and now you've got Wichita State and Wichita Area Technical College have merged together, and that's going to increase that number. So that number's increased. So 4 of the 5 measures, we've really hit a nice stroke with it, and I'm pleased to be able to report that, and I think you ought to hold guys like me to those. You said you're going to do this. What'd you get done? Now let me show you a few slides, and then I want to just end on some thoughts. We up there? Okay, there we go. So these are just a couple of things that I've really taken to heart a lot. When I was reelected, the press that night asked me, well, what are you going to focus on in your second term? And I cited 2 things in particular. I said, we got the 5 measurables, but there's 2 things in particular I want to also hit. Poverty reduction and water. I want to reduce the number of people in poverty in this state, and I want to secure the long-term water vision for the state of Kansas. These are 2 key things. We need to get fewer people in poverty, and without water, you don't have a future. And we've got a lot of water areas in our state that we're really struggling. Poverty, we've had a big change in the programs. We've changed the TANF, the welfare program. We said if you're able-bodied without dependents, you have to either apply for work or take job training. You got to do one of the 2. What's happened? We've tripled the number of people getting out of poverty. We've increased their income on average 127%. It's an amazing thing when you don't have people just depend on a pittance from the government, but instead getting out and having the dignity of labor that comes with that, they flourish. We've tripled the number of people getting out of poverty, and their money has gone up. And this is what your grandmother taught you, right? This isn't anything radical. This is basic, the way the country is. So anyway, I've been really pleased with that one. This kind of shows you the arc of the curve, and this is also showing you the numbers of what we've gone from poverty to prosperity. Key thing. CanCare. We changed the Medicaid program. This is how we deliver health care for those that are in need. We put everything in managed care. And what's happened? Our results have gone up. We've had more people getting basic care instead of going to the emergency room. And we've saved the state, and this is from an outside audit, $1.7 billion during the period of time that we've done this. And we've increased the number of people on Medicaid 25%. The number has gone up. Now, we didn't do the Obamacare expansion, but our numbers have gone up that much. We've had better results, and it's cost the state less than it would have under the old program. That's still gone up. The trajectory has been less than it was under the old program. Water. And I just want to hit this because it's just dear to my heart as a son of a farmer. We've been overusing the Ogallala Aquifer. We've used up about 1/3 of it. We are dependent on that aquifer for a good half, probably, of our agricultural production in this state. So we established a new vision. We've been working with people on reducing and changing the laws from just a development policy, and what we've gotten to is now is a sustainable, we can get now to a sustainable use of the Ogallala Aquifer. By that I mean not pulling it down further than it's recharging. The people are saying, look, it's recharging a little faster than we thought, and we're able to cut back more than we thought. We're going to be able to use this aquifer in a sustainable fashion and not drain it, and this is going to be key for us on a long-term basis. And by the way, we're the fastest growing dairy state in the country. Now, I don't know about this last year. Year before we were. Just opened the biggest dairy drying, the milk drying facility in the country in Garden City about 3 weeks ago to export the milk that we're producing, and a big fast growing. And we had our biggest crop in the history of the state, not this year but last year. Broke the prior record by 240 million bushels of total grain production, and this year will be the second biggest grain crop. And the quail are back too. We've got quail. So I'm not, the Lord is healing our land. American Royals movement in the state of Kansas has been one of the big old line stock shows, and I just show this because we're going to recruit around them agriculture technology and animal genetics businesses that we believe we can export to around the world. You can export livestock genetics everywhere, and this is going to be a key new growth platform for us up in Wyandotte County. There's some pictures of it. Got a big intermodal facility, Burlington, northern Santa Fe, and this has been one of the fastest growing in the country of new facilities. Soccer capital of America is going to be in that same Wyandotte County area, and that's going to be opening soon. And I want to talk about Wichita, specific things here. Cargill, I just met with them earlier. I'm just looking out the window and seeing a nice new building going up. They're staying here. They didn't move somewhere. And we worked hard to get that and to make sure that that would happen. And they're going to, I think, they're expanding their operation to see that happen. And then during the time I've been in office, I helped get the first appropriation for the NIAR facility, National Aviation Research Institute. What a gangbuster place. I mean, once they got started, they have just soared. And I'm so pleased with what they've got done with that little start that they had. One thing that I was pleased we got done, but it didn't get as much out of it as I hoped, when I was in the Senate, we flipped the contract on tankers. You may remember that Airbus was going to build all the tankers. This was the largest military contract in the history of the world. And it was going to Airbus, and we flipped that, went to Boeing. Now we're building a lot of fuselages here. I wanted the rest of it built here, but that's another matter for another day. And then as a vision going forward, I just want to submit to you that there's a real chance of Wichita being able to get a doctor of osteopathy school here. You know, there are MDs and DOs in the medical field. We have an MD school at KU. It's a great one. They do a great job. We do not have a DO school in the state, Doctor of Osteopathy. I'm recruiting of a private sector group. This wouldn't be in the region system, it'd be a private sector group to have a Doctor of Osteopathy school. Wichita is one of the lead candidates for this. There are others that are bidding for it. But I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be here. And it'd be a long-term major contribution to the state and to this community for it to be here. DOs tend to be more family practice and go to rural areas. We have been chronically short of medical people, particularly in rural areas, since I've been in public life. It's one of the lead issues that we have in the rural areas of our state now, not being able to get medical personnel there. And I want this to be a rural and missionary sending school. So that the people that are attracted, you ask, we want you to go to rural, or if you want to go on the mission fields. There's a doctor in Lakin, Kansas, a guy that runs a hospital out at Lakin, that he recruits people out there to serve a minority population, but he also gives them 3 weeks a year to go to serve wherever they want to around the world. And he gets people to sign up because he feeds what they want to do. They want to go out and serve in a mission field. They want to be in Peru or Congo for a good period of time. You're going, God bless you. That's the kind of guys you want around, isn't it? Well, what if we had a school of them? So I think that would be a great ad for this community and this state. Flint Hills Nature Trails opened up. It's one of the top 10 longest trails in the country. It's about 100 miles from Council Grove to Osawatomie, Kansas. It goes through the heart of the Flint Hills, and really we need to use that Flint Hills to attract and to have a lot more outdoor activities because they're glorious. And now we've got a permanent route that's there that's been upgraded. I hope some of you will get out and use horseback, walking, hiking, biking. It's a great area. Job growth I've already hit. Net new business formation. Now this is one that's going to go the other way now. All right? I said one of our big objectives was we want to be the best state in America to do two things. Raise a family, grow a small business. All right? Pretty simple, pretty direct. Raise a family, grow a small business. What are we doing the small business in? We took the taxes off of small businesses. Said if you're an LLC, sub S, pass-through company, no taxes on your income. And what happened? 6 years of record new business formations in the state of Kansas. Record. Well, unfortunately, this last year, that got put back on, the taxes on small business. This number will start going the other way because you put the taxes back on. Not that you can say, well, they should pay some, okay. But you're going to drive down the formation of small business, and the number of small businesses formed in the country have been going down. It is hard to start and sustain a small business with all the rules and regs and everything that's on top of you. And yet that's your seed corn for the new crop coming up. You're not going to have big companies unless they first start as small companies. And we're eating our seed corn. So but we've had record numbers for 5 years off of what we did, but that's going to start going the other way. And as I mentioned, Kansas is a pro-life state. I believe we're the leading pro-life state in America today. And at no small apart because of what you guys have done. And we are going to win this fight for life. We're going to win it. So with that, let me just wrap up with where I started, which is a big thank you. You guys you're awesome. I'm hopefully will be confirmed by the Senate soon for this ambassadorship for religious freedom. That's hung out there a while, as a lot of things have. And it's going to be it'll be a big job. It's a position I helped create in '97. It was a position created by Congress, the International Religious Freedom Act, that was just renewed last year with the Frank Wolf Religious Freedom Act. And it was an effort then to try to get State Department in particular to focus on the issues of religious freedom, because they wouldn't. But now you can just look around the world, what's happening the last couple of weeks, even what's happening right now in Myanmar, what happened over the weekend in the mosque in Egypt, 300 people killed. These are religious freedom issues, and I think it's going to be one of the most important portfolios around. Because if you've got a religiously free society, there are two key things that flow out of that by the data. Number one, your nation is more secure. You're more secure when there is religious freedom for everybody, and you guarantee that freedom, that they can do with their own soul what they choose to, or nothing at all. That's their right. That is their God-given right to do that. And the second thing is your economy grows. When you have that freedom, that basic freedom, and this is in the data, the economy grows. You attract in more people with more different ideas that help generate and move in a society forward. It's a foundational issue for the United States of America. It's in the UN Charter, Human Rights Charter. And I'll be my job to push this if I can get a confirmation vote up in the Senate. And there are no shortage of things to do in it. There's just a lot of issues around the world, a lot of places around the world where this issue's not been going the right direction. So that's what I will be doing. I covet your prayers for it. We'll need it. This issue hasn't been trending the right way the last 20 years. It's been trending the wrong way. And it's a very, very important one, and one I'm very excited about doing. With that, you make my heart glad just seeing you, and thank you for what all you've stood up and done for us and my family for years. And as I pass from the stage here in Kansas, I leave with a warm thought and good feelings of all the good-hearted people in this wonderful state of Kansas. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you very, very, very much. Comments or questions of things? Yeah, Susan?
Well, number one, it's always been an honor to work with you. When you come see us the right way, I always know that you have sincere honors and I know. I am curious, your top 3 agenda items on your new position.
Susan's asking about the top 3 agenda items in the new positions, and I can't talk about it. Their advice is to not talk about those things until you're confirmed. They don't want comments made about it. Other than I think it's just going to be. It is an incredibly important topic, and it's deeply tied to long-term security projections in this country and globally.
We have a microphone over here, so we can start passing it around.
Okay,
so
good.
I'll start going around. First off, Governor, thank
Hey,
you
Andy.
for what you've done. Yes, sir. Yeah, give the radio guy a microphone. That's a bad idea.
I love doing morning shows with him, though. This guy's awesome. It's so much
Thank you
fun.
for coming on the show. I think that was desperately needed. I love being able to talk to you. Good luck with the new venture. Hopefully we can continue to do that afterwards. And I do have to say, as somewhat part of the media, I apologize for what my mainstream media has done to you every day.
I guess no comment from the
Governor, thanks for joining us again.
Yeah.
Coming to visit with us. Tell us a little bit more about this position. Who's in it now? Who will you be? Will you be reporting directly to Tillerson or whoever the Secretary of State is? Or how does that work?
As I say, the position was created in 1997, the Religious Freedom Protection Act. It was an effort really by Congress to get the State Department to start paying more attention to religious freedom issues. And the last occupant was Rabbi David Saperstein, who supports me going into this position. I used to work with Rabbi Saperstein when I was in the Senate. A great guy on religious freedom issues. He is not there. He left the position, I want to say, I don't know, November last year, February, something like that. He was appointed by the prior administration, so the position has been open since then. There's a staff there that works on putting out an annual report and also advocating for people that are in jail around the world. This is work that I used to do in the Senate, where we found in certain countries that if you could give that person a name that was in jail and contact and write them, said, we know you have this person in jail and that they're there because of their faith and that you should let them go, we could often keep them alive. If they never got a name to anybody up the system, they'd disappear. But you could keep them alive, and sometimes you could get them out. So it's both an individual advocacy that you do for individuals and then collectively on policy changes. And I think we've got to do policy changes with countries that they have to view as in their best interest. Because people don't do things unless they view it in their own self-interest. But we now have the data about this. If you want your country to grow and prosper, you need to protect your religious minorities. And it's a fundamental right. So I'll take that to a lot of places, and places that I used to do that some when I was in the Senate, but those are the basics, and that's who was just in it.
Governor, we all realize that Jeff Collier will take your place.
Yes.
But who's going to pick up your mantle? You've been the Elijah for pro-life. You are the Elijah right now for getting this medical and this DO school here. Who's going to be your Elisha? Who is picking up your mantle, and who do we need to support and pray for as you pass the position?
That's very kind of you to say, and it's been a great joy of my life to be able to do it, too. I think Jeff's going to do an outstanding job, and I think he'll pick these issues up and press them. I think there are also a number of great people running for governor, and one of them's in this room. Or maybe there may be more. I don't know who else all is in this room. They're a crowded field. But elections are about discussions and choices. And so people are going to be discussing different topics that they think this is more important, they think that's more important, and because you got 1,000 things that you could work on and fix, but you kind of hone down. Well, this is what I really think is important. That's why I put 5 measurables in front of you that I really thought were important, and then we kept tracking those as a government, saying, well, how are we doing on these 5? Because a guy here in Wichita that at the time ran one of the airplane companies. Was schooling me, said, what you measure gets done. And I thought, well, how do we do that in government? Kind of, most of the time not. It just kind of, you run on slogans, and that's fine. But I thought, well, let's put some measurables out there. And then, as I mentioned, water and poverty have been really key to me on this last term as well, and we hit that. But you'll have a robust discussion. I look at states as kind of like, you look at it as a sea that produces people. And this is a good sea. It produces good people. So you're going to have good people come up in this, and they'll shine. They'll lift people forward. It'll be different than what I've put forward. But this is just such a hearty, good state. You think about it. This state started the fight on slavery. So for 150 years, we as a country are willing to tolerate slavery. We're willing to tolerate it. I don't like it in some places, but we're willing to tolerate it. And people come out here and, no, I am not willing to tolerate that. And I'm going to fight about it. And they did. And they started the bloodiest war in the history of the country. And my mom was raised on the property where John Brown would stay when he's in Kansas, in Osawatomie, Kansas. And he's referred to as Osawatomie Brown in that firehouse at Harper's Ferry. And he was seen as pretty wild. But he was right. And well, I mean, and then people here now really talking about the pro-life movement. They may tolerate it at places, but saying, look, this is not right. And I'm willing to stand up about it. And that's who we are. I'd be really disappointed if you don't elect a pro-life governor. Yeah. Let me put it that way. Thanks for asking. Yeah. Hey.
Yes, Governor Sam, I'm so proud to have you here. I think that history will show what I already know, and that is that you're the best governor that Kansas has had. I know someone tried to get you to talk specifically about troubled spots around the world, but I would like for you, if you can, to the extent that you can speak generally, I would like you to talk to us about maybe the Congo, where Christians are being systematically exterminated, and what can you actually do in this position? What are the powers of the position? I don't want you to go any further than you can go, but what are the powers of that position? Do you have like a chain to pull the Secretary of State in on it? You know, what can you do actually in these troubled spots?
The office puts out a report annually. It's Religious Freedom Report, and it's a gold standard globally for what's taking place, religious freedom around the world, or lack of religious freedom. And there are a number of very difficult hot spots around the world that are in that report. Again, the sort of tactics. Previously, what we've done is we put the report out, and then we go to countries to try to get them to change their policies to be more mindful towards religious freedom. I think we have to go to places to really show that it's in their best interest to do this. And there are various ways that people, I think, would look at how to do that. The position itself reports to the Secretary of State by statute, and but its office is in the State Department, but it's also to be a coordinating position throughout government, so that it coordinates other entities that work with religious freedom issues, because you've got a number of different assets throughout the federal government that work in various countries. And this is to be a coordinating position to coordinate those efforts on the topic of religious freedom. And as I mentioned, I think it's a growing issue globally, and it's growing fast. I'm just trying to be real careful what I say.
I'm sorry, Governor. We culturally, as a nation, we may be entering kind of a tipping point in regards to attitudes towards sexual harassment, sexual misconduct, whatever we might call it. And we're seeing that in the private sector, the perpetrators are being dealt with very quickly, very effectively, and very harshly. So people are starting to notice that's not the case with politicians and people in government. So I'm just interested in your thoughts on where do you see this going in the future? How can we hold politicians accountable in the same way that the private sector is holding people accountable?
Let me answer that as best I can. But before I do, I saw Ron Paul sitting in front of you. Ron's wife Jan was a dear friend of mine and a great legislator for a number of years. And I want to recognize Ron and Jan's legacy. Ron, let's see, man. One of the most beautiful things. I'm going to answer your question, but this is too important of a sidebar. One of the most beautiful things that you can do in these jobs are the relationships that you get to build. And Jan Pauls was just a wonderful lady, and I got to visit her in the hospital about 10 days, I guess, maybe 2 weeks before she died, and she just had such a beautiful soul at the time, and we'd known each other 20 plus years, and that's what you remember. The policies are all important, and these are important discussions, but what you remember at the end of it are the souls that touched, and she was just a beautiful soul that touched mine, and she stood. She stood on the social conservative issues when her party, she was a Democrat for a long time, wanted to stay a Democrat, but the party just moved completely away from her, and she didn't change her policy on moral issues. She could have gotten reelected, didn't. lost her re-election, and I just thought, what a courageous, beautiful soul that I got to know. So, Ron, thanks for being here and that legacy. This has been a wild discussion taking place lately, and I've been mostly just trying to watch and observe of it rather than jumping into it, and I think I'm going to do that now too. It's an evolving. Things are evolving. They're moving forward, but I don't want to jump into it now. I said I was going to answer your question. I'm sorry. I should have told you I wasn't going to. Hey.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good, man. Good to see you. Your prayers probably is the reason why I'm still here.
I'm glad to see you still here.
That's okay. Oh, we got so many things to be thankful for you, Governor. I just love you to death. I want to start just talking about slavery. You were the only governor that did a proclamation for the state of Kansas. I was there for the signing, apologizing to the African American for the slavery and the hurt that they had endured.
And separate but equal, and Jim Crow laws, and the whole series of things.
Yes, you did. The other big, huge thing that you did for the United States of America and the world, you wrote the legislation. You, the one, is the reason for we got the African American Museum and Natural Culture in Washington, D.C. And I was so proud to see you on TV when they said the senator from the state of Kansas.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, that's one of, I know, but I want to give a sidebar to, I never can shut you, and I'm not going to. But that museum is the hottest ticket in Washington, D.C. You can't get in unless you go online 2 months in advance to get in. It is a museum of reconciliation because you go in and you start, they take an elevator, you go down, you got to go see it. It is fabulous. It's at the foot of the Washington Monument. You go down, 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 and then you see a statue of Thomas Jefferson, which is fabulous. And right behind him is a brick wall, and the names of his slaves are on the brick wall. And you're going, how do I handle? And then you see shackles for kids and slave ships. And then, but as you go up, you see a group of people rise that are coming, and Kansas is a big piece of this story. I mean, whether it's Nicodemus and the Exodusters, or if it's the Docum drugstore here in Wichita, or it's Brown v. Board of Education, or it's John Brown. I mean, this state's got a big piece of this. And I fully believe this is one of the crying things we need to do as a nation, is we've got to be reconciled with one another. We have to do it, and I think we really have got to do it with particularly two groups, Native Americans and African Americans. And this is to me is foundational of where we are now. We've got to get a reconciliation process going in this nation, and we've made a lot of progress. We're not done, and we've got to do it.
Tears is going to come to my eyes when I say this. This is your proclamation for the sickle cell disease month. And during the 2010, welcome again, during the 2010 convention in Topeka, my niece had the sickle cell disease when he was senator. He got funding for that. You and Laura Shell Young in Washington was working on her getting that stem cell done, transplant done. Kept fitting it all. Shannon was working on it here in Kansas. You don't get in her. Finally, I got you to talk to her and convince her to go ahead and take that stem cell. I got the pictures and everything when we were talking at the convention. And she says, There's other kids that need it more than me. That was in February. In March, at the age of 26, she passed away from the sickle cell. Where you wrote down personally, Senator, you wrote down personally your cell phone number. Here, you call me. If you have it, the doctor in Washington, D.C. that spearheaded that sickle cell. Still, her mother still has that written with her down. Yeah, but you did that. And you tried all you could. But people need to know what you have done for everybody, not just one race of people, but for all of us here in the state of Kansas and in London. And for me personally, when I had my thyroid surgery, I got too much blood, had to go to the emergency, I'm wearing the life vest because I'm subject to cardiac arrest at any moment. You put me saving the property on your social services policy to reduce poverty. We had the meeting here in Wichita for disabilities. I wouldn't have missed it for nothing because you were coming. I was in a wheelchair.
Yeah, you were in bad shape.
I was in bad shape, but guess what he did? He came over and sat in front of me, in front of everybody in that wheelchair, took my hands, and he prayed for me right then and there. We're going to miss you here at home. I needed to say
that. We did start a stem cell center at KU Med. That's this is going to be beautiful science. These are adult stem cells. It's not the embryonic. It is going fabulous. They're getting into heart patients, stroke, sickle cell. This stuff's working. They've treated millions of people globally. We've got to standardize the science. That's part of what the KU Med Center is. This, I believe, is the first in the country that's focused on adult stem cells. And this is beautiful stuff. In the future, you're not going to get an initial knee or hip replacement. They're going to collect your fat cells, get the stem cells out, they're going to shoot it back in your knee, it's going to regrow the cartilage, ligaments, and you're going to go, whoa, yeah, I feel like a new horse here. Because we're already doing it in dogs and horses, and it's working great there. And they can't, they can't think, oh, I've been shot full of new stem cells, I'm going to, jump again. It's just working, and it's going to. Thanks.
I don't really have a question, Senator Brownback, but I want to thank you on behalf of your animal husbandry background and your farming. I think you put Kansas on the map. And on behalf of the health community, I want to thank you very much. The KU Stem Cell Research, the Mental Health Center that's there, the huge new health building for training that just has students and lab technicians.
This is brand new. Their first year for the new medical education building at KU Med, and it is state of the art. They've got tours. I was meeting with them yesterday, the head of it, saying they're having trouble doing all their classes because they got so many tourists coming through wanting to see how they're training the new medical doctors, and it's a different dynamic of what they're doing.
The simulation lab is fantastic. The cadaver that's in there itself, one of them's only $88,000, and everything is there for everything. And so not only are we doing the research at genomic level, but also the simulation. And I want to thank you too for getting the medical down here, the med school. I was part of the committee way back that tried to get a med school at WSU. We weren't able to pull that off. But thanks for getting that here for your DO proposals, and any other Ds that we can add to that would be greatly appreciated.
Great community that does a lot of things, and like I said, that Doctor of Osteopathy School, I hope people are leaning into that here, because that would be a game changer, I really think, for the community, but it really would be for the state and the rural areas.
Governor, thank you for everything that you've done for this state, but more importantly, thank you for your servant's heart. It takes a servant's heart to place the state before himself or herself, and I want to thank you for that. I do have a question. What advice would you give the future governor of the state of Kansas?
is what I mean, the motto of the country is "In God We Trust," right? Do we believe it or not? And I think leaders need to be people that pray and really do seek wisdom from above. And I just think that's a very important thing, because to seek that and to have the humility to do that. You read in the Old Testament of the kings, you read through Kings, and most of the times the kings are not good for the nation, and they do bad things, and they walk away from God. That's most of them. And once in a while somebody comes along and says, no, well, what's God want? There's a humility of doing that, and there's also just this critical need to do that. And you look at our great leaders of this nation: George Washington, Lincoln. My goodness, these guys were on their knees all the time. Martin Luther King Jr. is a man of the cloth. I've gone to Selma, where they started these rallies from the church. It was in the church that they started. They were singing hymns before they go out and face the police and the dogs. Because where does your strength come from? It comes from God. Yes. And they knew that, and they also knew they didn't want to go out in anger. Because what's the normal human response when somebody sends a dog after you? I'm mad. But they knew that wasn't the way to change things. So, I mean, just look at our own history. One of the things I hope to do for ending office is call for a day of prayer and fasting for the state and nation, like Washington and Lincoln and prior presidents have done, because I just think we just got to keep having that humbleness. And it's so foundational to who we've been as a people for a long period of time. And yet now we kind of waver. Is that really true? Do we really believe that? So that'd be my advice.
Last question right over here.
I understand sanctions would be something you will be able to recommend the State Department work with on those countries that violate religious freedoms. You don't really have much power or authority. But recommending those sanctions, that talks too, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, and they're in that bill, that ability, and then often they've gotten waived. The sanctions have, but that's one of the tools that's there as well. So it's not been used a great deal, but that's a tool that exists within it. So this is my favorite time of the year, is from the week of Thanksgiving until after New Year's. Because, Thanksgiving is the greatest holiday ever. Just giving thanks, got a big meal, and family around, and, and that's just great. And then you go into the Christmas season, and people are happier, and then you go into the K-State Bowl season, afterwards. So, it's just wonderful, afterwards. This is a sidebar, but it's a good one. I was at the K-State Iowa State game, the Farmageddon. It's wheat versus corn. Cattle versus hogs. I mean, this is all of it when you go. And I'm not looking good. And then we win at the very last play. And I go down to the locker room after I was blessed to go down there. And God bless Bill Snyder. The guy, so I'm down there, and he's saying to these young men, he's still teaching them. He said, now remember what it took to win this game later on in life, because you're going to need that. I mean, the stamina and the effort and the focus to win this game, you need that later on in life. And I thought, God bless this guy. Way to go. I mean, you're just still coaching, but what he's doing, and the reason he stayed coaching is because he loves forming young men. That's what it's about. So he's still hitting, and I can't believe, this is fantastic that he's doing that. And that's what all of us should be about. Folks in this room, mentor people. When you got young folks coming up, be around them, help them out. We've got mentoring programs for people coming out of prison, 8,000 mentoring matches. We reduced our recidivism rate in half doing that because somebody touches them with a heart. Government can't do that. People do that. People could touch at the heart level, but that's how you change somebody. And just keep doing it. Just keep being the wonderful community that you are. God bless you.
Governor Sam Brownback. Let's give him a standing ovation.
All right. Thanks, guys.